name is Rubidium. This is the third in a series of videos I'm doing for AbelCine about exploring common questions and solutions in cinematography. Today we're looking at single camera versus multi-camera shooting, and in a narrative scenario like shooting a short film or a feature film, what are the costs and benefits to shooting one camera at a time, meaning shooting all of one actor's coverage, changing the lighting, turning around and shooting the other actor, and multi-camera coverage, shooting all angles or as many angles as possible at the same time. To test this, I wrote a two-person dialogue scene that takes place in a location in a diner in Hollywood, and we shot the scene 3 times. Once lit and blocked for 3 cameras, so 2 over the shoulders and a master. Once shot for 2 cameras, the corresponding over the shoulder shots, and once with 1 camera, covering off all of one actor's shots, turning around, relighting, and covering off the other actor's shots. I have to say I was really surprised in what we found, and I want to share that with you today. The lighting time for all 3 scenarios was roughly equivalent. With multi-camera, it's just all put at the start of the shoot, so you have to spend all your time lighting before you start shooting, but once you start shooting, you get a lot of coverage really quickly. With single camera, lighting each shot takes less time, but cumulatively, it's around the same. If you do a pre-light, meaning you go to location before the day of the shoot and light the set so that when you step on set, you only have a couple of adjustments to make, then obviously multi-camera is going to be at a benefit because while the lighting takes longer, you're able to do it in advance. So you get all your lighting out of the way before you've even started your day. Cost-wise, multi-camera is a lot more expensive. You need to rent multiple lenses, multiple cameras, and have multiple camera crews on set at the same time. You're not able to use the economies of scale of 1 camera, 1 set of lenses, and 1 crew spaced out over the different shots. There's also a lot of compromises with multi-camera shooting. As we'll explore when we get into the specifics of the scene that we shot, you're not able to get the lights as close, you're not able to get the camera angle that you want because you're always in danger of revealing lights or another camera or some part of the set that is being used by production. With single camera, you can finesse your one shot much more and end up with a more considered, more precise frame. With multi-camera, because you can't get the lights as close because they would be in the other camera's frame, you need to use larger lights if you're going for the same level of softness, the same size of source comparative to your subject. So rather than getting a 4-foot source 4 feet away, you need to have an 8-foot source 8 feet away. In the location we were working in, that wasn't possible. The space just didn't support larger and larger sources. So instead we opted for smaller sources further away and ended up with harsher lighting in the multi-camera shots. Speed-wise, multi-camera wins hands down. You could literally get away with just doing 1 take. If you have multiple cameras, they're covering all the angles that you need for the edit. You should do a second take just for safety, but not only is it quicker to get the footage, it will cut flawlessly because it all happened at the same time. So there's no worries about continuity, there's no worries about an actor consistently repeating an action at the same time at the same line. Basically, you get it all at the one time. A TV show that has a schedule of, say, 8 to 10 pages a day is going to be much better off shooting multi-camera than a feature film that only has to cover 3 or 4 pages a day. That said, that difference is a big reason why cinema looks visually more distinctive than television. Television is full of those compromises where you're shooting both actors at the same time. Neither one is lit as you would like them to be lit, but both are lit well enough, and then you move on to the next shot. In short, single camera shooting is a big reason why cinema looks so cinematic. Here you see in the 3 camera shoot, we had to get the lights maybe 15 feet from the actors. They were 1x1 panels high up on C-stands to get them out of the other opposing shot. We cross-keyed the 2 actors, and you can see here that the lighting on both actors in their singles was harsh. Now, it's not harsh in a bad way. It certainly suited the genre of the scene that we wrote, but it wasn't as visually impressive as the 2 camera, where we flew in diffusion, a 4x4 and a 2x4, respectively, on both actors to soften that light, to give a more wrapping around key to basically get a kinder to the face, more visually pleasing image. On the single camera, we're able to get a huge source, this Hudson Spider parabolic, right next to the actor's face. If we had had a second camera on this, it would have been totally blocked by our key now. But as a result, we get the contrast that we really wanted, we get the brightness that we really wanted, and all in all, it just allows you to finesse much more the image that you want. Another big reason that people shoot multi-camera is for editing, for continuity. If you have two actors giving powerful performances, if you capture both sides of the performance at the same time, they will seamlessly cut together, and it's very quick to edit as well. You really just cut between each actor as they have their lines, and you're going to have an almost perfect scene. What really surprised me on this exercise was how difficult multi-camera is to direct. This is because a director can only focus on one thing at one time, as much as we like to believe ourselves multitaskers. If you have 2 or 3 monitors in front of you, you can only give your attention to one performance at a time, to one image at a time. And as a result, you end up getting a little bit distracted, or things make their way into the footage that in multi-camera that you really wouldn't allow in single camera. In single camera too, you're able to dress to frame, you're able to move things around, you're able to give the actor much more direct notes because you're only watching their side of the performance. You're only watching their take. I discovered that this had the added benefit of really raising the level of the performance. Not that there was anything wrong with the multi-camera takes or the double camera takes, but when the whole crew is looking at that one actor because they're the only person that the camera is on, they tend to lift their game. Even if they're doing their absolute best in the multi-camera, they just seem to have an extra level of focus, an extra level of power in their performance when they're the only one being photographed. I tried to mitigate that by hiring really experienced actors for this shoot, but I still found that in single camera, the performance was much more powerful. I was able to focus on it much more as the director, and really the scene that is a single camera scene pops a lot more. I'll link to all 3 versions of the scene in the description, and you can watch them and decide for yourself which one you prefer. To summarize, I was really surprised how much better the single camera was than the multi-camera. It made me much more comfortable lighting it, and it made me much more comfortable directing it. And I can see why a lot of directors, including Christopher Nolan, who have the resources to shoot multi-camera, insist on shooting with a single camera so that they can focus on the image at hand. Given how much better single camera was image-wise, performance-wise, I asked myself, why would you use multi-camera? Why do so many productions shoot more than one at once? Now, there are a couple of bigger factors that I should mention here that are worth keeping in mind. If your actors are improvising in any way, if they're only going to do one take in that one way once, then you have to shoot multi-camera, or else you're never going to be able to match your reverses to what happened in the first take. If your actors are kids or non-professional actors, or you're working with animals, anything that's non-repeatable or might grow stale after the second or third or fourth take, then you should definitely try and get everything you need in those first couple of takes, and that means shooting with multi-camera. If you want real scares or real reactions, then definitely shoot multi-camera. Ridley Scott shot the famous alien chestbuster scene with up to 6 cameras because he had a surprise in store for the cast with the effects that none of them had seen before on the alien, and he wanted that visceral reaction from all of them at once. He didn't want a chance that they would be able to repeat it. So horror and thriller might be an opportunity to shoot multi-camera to capture authentic reactions. If you're shooting stunt elements or anything dangerous or anything that you can only do once, like your actors falling into water that's going to take you a long time to turn around, redress, change clothes, then certainly shoot multi-camera. Get as many angles as you can. If you're pressed for time, if you're outdoors and the light is fading fast, especially around magic hour, the light is going to change between takes. So it's imperative that you get both of your matching singles at the same time so that you don't have to finesse it in the grade. There are these and a lot more exceptions about why multi-camera works, but more than anything for me, this just showed that if you focus on one image and one shot at one time, you're always going to get a better result. How you shoot, how you light, and how you direct are very much a personal thing. It's what makes directing an individual experience, and I would encourage you to Do a test like this with a scene that you're filming to discover the strengths and weaknesses for multi-camera versus single camera for your style. Thanks very much for watching. I will see you next time.
You look like that said you would.
I'm alone. Money's under the table. Can I count it?
3 million. No, I'm good. You look professional.
You seem very relaxed for a man who's putting his life on the line.
United States versus Jackson, 1968. Supreme Court ruled that kidnapping alone could not be deemed as a capital offense.
Did you Google that when you were sitting outside the school or after you took him? And you and your buddies were sitting around wondering what to do with all that money.
Me? I'm just a middleman like you. The kids insured, right? I mean, they got coverage for everything these days. It's fine, and it'll stay that way as long as the count is right. Everybody gets paid.
You hurt that kid. And I promise I will follow you to the ends of the earth and I'll put you in the ground.
You do this a lot.
Pay off kidnappers.
Sit across from people you despise.
It's part of the job.
We're both part of the same system of hypocrisy. We risk our lives for people who consider us disposable.
I'm nothing like you.
For the coffee.
I don't take money from people like you.
Yes, you do. You look like you said you would.
I'm alone. Money's under the table. Want something to drink?
Sure. I'll have a coffee.
You're not going to count it?
3 million. No, I'm good. You look professional.
You seem pretty relaxed for a man who's putting his life on the line.
United States versus Jackson, 1968. Supreme Court ruled that kidnapping alone isn't deemed a capital offense.
You Google that while you were waiting outside the school or after you took him? You and your buddies sitting around wondering what you're going to do with all that money.
Me? No, I'm just a middleman.
Oh.
Like you. The kid's insured, right? And they got coverage for everything these days. He's fine. He'll remain so. The count is right. Everyone gets paid.
You hurt that kid? I promise you, I will follow you to the ends of the earth, and I will put you in the ground.
You do this a lot.
I'll pay off kidnappers.
Sit across from people you despise.
It's part of the job.
We're both part of a system we despise. You know, risking our lives for people who consider us disposable.
I am nothing like you.
For the coffee?
I don't take money from people like you.
Yes, you do. You look like they said you would.
I'm alone. Money's under the table. Do you want something to drink?
Yeah, sure, I'll have a coffee.
Not gonna count it?
3 million. No, I'm good. You're a professional.
Seem very calm for a man who's putting his life on the line.
United States versus Jackson, 1968. Supreme Court ruled that kidnapping alone could not be deemed a capital offense.
You Google that while you were waiting outside the school? Or after you took him, you and your buddies sitting around wondering how you're going to spend all that money?
Me? No, I'm just a middleman, just like you. Kid's insured, right? Good coverage for everything these days. He's fine, and he'll remain that way if the county's right. Everybody gets paid.
You hurt that kid? I promise I will follow you to the ends of the earth, and I will put you in the ground.
You do this a lot.
Pay off kidnappers?
Sit across from people you despise.
It's part of the job.
We're both part of a system we despise, risking our lives, working for people who consider us disposable.
We're nothing alike.
For the coffee.
I don't take money from people like you.
Yes, you do.